Oppo Reno Z is a medium-sized mobile device with a very attractive appearance. The smartphone is moderately large and significantly heavy. Due to the strongly rounded back wall, the device does not feel so voluminous in the hand. However, the body turns out to be as slippery as possible and strives to slip out of the hands. The situation is somewhat saved by the fact that the lateral edges here did not narrow to the point of sharpening, but were made more or less wide, although not really flat. The front camera is usually hidden in a cutout in the screen. This is a modern teardrop-shaped cutout. Oppo Reno Z is equipped with an AMOLED display with a diagonal of 6.4 inches and a resolution of 2340 x 1080, covered with Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Physical dimensions are 68 x 148 mm, aspect ratio 19.59, density 403 pixels per inch. The width of the frame around the screen is 3 mm from the sides and above and 5 mm from the bottom. The screen occupies 92% of the front surface area, supports HDR10 and TUV Rhineland certified eye protection technology. The front camera, f2.0, in Oppo Reno Z has a resolution of 32 megapixels and produces excellent pictures in sharpness, detail and brightness. True, you can't call the colors juicy. The contrast is not always enough, the pictures come out a little whitish. And still, Oppo has some of the best mobile selfie cameras on the market. 2 cameras are visible on the back of the device. But the second, for the resolution of 5 megapixels, is used only as a scene depth sensor, so, in fact, there is only one ordinary module, without super wide-angle and telephoto lenses. Accordingly, there is no optical zoom here. The maximum digital zoom is possible up to 10 times. The main camera has a 48 megapixel sensor, matrix size 1/2. Pixel size 0.8 microns, and a lens with an aperture of f1.7. There is phase PDAF autofocus, but there is no optical stabilization. By default, the camera shoots in a resolution of 12 megapixels. And the 48 megapixel mode, as usual, is hidden in the bowels of the settings. Artificial intelligence is usually engaged in scene modes. There is a manual settings mode, auto HDR, panoramic, portrait, as well as SLO slow motion mode. There is no native ability to save pictures in RAW, but no one forbids using third-party programs. With the video shooting modes in the ColorOS camera interface, they are frankly too smart. Instead of the usual list of all modes, the resolution and the number of frames per second were for some reason taken to completely different places. So you need to choose between 4K and 1080p directly on the viewfinder screen, and you need to change 30 FPS to 60 in a separate settings section, which is completely inconvenient. The camera can shoot at a maximum resolution of 3840 x 2160 at 30 FPS. There is also the option of shooting in 1080p with 60 or 30 FPS. You cannot select the HEVC codec for recording clips here. There is the possibility of slow motion. Video quality is at the usual average level. In 4K, the detail is higher, but the colors are oversaturated. In 1080p, paints are more or less natural, but the sharpness and detail are lower. According to the creators, when shooting movies, electronic stabilization is possible even in 4K resolution. The sound is recorded with high quality, without distortion. As a software platform, Oppo Reno Z uses Android OS version 9 with ColorOS 6.0 shell with the ability to update by air. This is the latest version of the Oppo proprietary interface. There is a face unlock feature. The fingerprint scanner is subscreen, but it works more or less quickly and clearly. Oppo Reno Z runs on a single-chip MediaTek MT6779 Helio P90 system, manufactured using a 12nm process technology. The configuration of this SoC includes an 8-core processor with 2 ARM Cortex-A75 cores with a frequency of 2.2 GHz and 6 ARM Cortex-A55 cores with a frequency of 2.0 GHz. The PowerVR GM9946 is used as the GPU. The RAM capacity of the smartphone can be 4/6, 8 GB. The storage capacity is 128 256 of a gigabyte. Oppo Reno Z has a built-in 4035 mAh battery. In real life, a smartphone behaves like most modern top-end smartphones. Vivo V17 would have the most common design, if not for the design of the rear camera, a rhombus. The case is quite large, wide, quite heavy and a little slippery due to glossy surfaces. From the outside, it looks attractive. The rear cameras practically do not protrude beyond the surface. The smartphone lies steadily on the table. Their central arrangement allows the finger not to overlap the wide-angle camera. Vivo V17 has a Super AMOLED display with dimensions of 68 x 148 mm, a diagonal of 6.38 inches, a resolution of 2340 x 1080, with an aspect ratio of 19.59, and a pixel density of 404 pixels per inch. The back chamber of the Vivo V17 is formally 4. In fact, the main module with a resolution of 48 megapixels is supplemented here with the wide-angle 8 megapixels and two very simple 2 megapixels for measuring the depth of field of a scene and macro photography. There is a bright flash, phase-assisted PDAF autofocus is used. It is possible to use artificial intelligence, which will deal with the installation of optimal, in the opinion of automation. Shooting parameters. The main camera offers shooting in 4 pixels in 1 format, that is, in a resolution of 12 megapixels. At full resolution of 48 megapixels. You can switch only with automatic AI maximum digital zoom possible up to 10 times the ultra-wide-angle module, equivalent focal length 13 mm, has a sensor resolution of 8 megapixels 4.0. 1.12 micrometers, and a lens with an aperture of f2.2. In macro mode, which must be enabled through the menu, the third module with the characteristics of 2MP, f2.4 is really used. Of course, such a weak module cannot provide decent detail. Video can be shot at a maximum resolution of 1080p at 30 fps. There is no shooting in 4K, and at 60 fps, there is no stabilization. Vivo V17 selfie camera shoots at 32 megapixels, f2.0 aperture. Vivo V17 runs on the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 octa-core single-chip SoC. Its configuration includes 2 CPU clusters, 4x Cryo 260 Gold at 2.0 GHz plus 4x Cryo 260 Silver at 1.8 GHz. GPU Adreno 610 is responsible for graphics performance. The Vivo V17 has a built-in battery with a rather large capacity of 4,500 mAh. In real life, a smartphone lives just like most others. Samsung Galaxy A70 is a huge smartphone. The cameras on the back side almost do not protrude beyond the surface. The smartphone lies on the table steadily, does not wiggle when you touch the screen. The back cover is made of glossy plastic. Under the glass, Samsung Galaxy A70 is equipped with an AMOLED display with a diagonal of 6.67 inches and a resolution of 2400 x 1080. Covered with 2.5D glass Corning Gorilla Glass 3. Physical dimensions are 70 x 155 mm. The screen is simply huge. The aspect ratio is 20:9. The density of the dots is 393 pixels per inch. The width of the frame around the screen is 3 mm from the sides and top 5 mm from the bottom. The front camera has a resolution of 32 megapixels. By default, it shoots in 21 megapixels. How to enable the resolution of 32 megapixels? You still have to guess. The rear camera consists of 3 modules. The main here is a 32 megapixel module. It has phase PDAF autofocus and a fairly bright flash. Next to it is a wide-angle 123 degrees module with an 8 megapixel sensor with an f2.2 lens aperture, as well as a depth sensor, 5 megapixel sensor, a lens with an f2.2 aperture. There is a dedicated button for switching between the main and wide-angle cameras on the viewfinder screen. Video can be shot in 4K. There are also options 2400 x 1080 at 30 fps and 1080p with 60 fps. There is also the possibility of slow-motion shooting with a resolution of 1080p at 240 fps. As the software platform, Android OS 9 is used with the ability to update by air OTA. Also installed here is the Samsung One UI proprietary shell, already familiar from previously tested models of the new A series, which replaced Samsung Experience. There is an always-on display function that displays basic information on a turned-off screen. Samsung Galaxy A70 runs on a single-chip Qualcomm Snapdragon 675 system, manufactured by the 11nm process technology. The configuration of this SoC includes 8 Cryo 460 cores operating at a frequency of 1.7, 2.0 GHz. The role of the GPU is performed by Adreno 612. The smartphone's RAM is 6 GB and the storage is 128 GB, of which 108 GB are free. You can install a microSD memory card up to 512 GB. Supports connecting external devices to the USB Type-C port in USB OTG mode. Samsung Galaxy A70 has a built-in battery with a large capacity of 4,500 mAh. Xiaomi released its Mi 9 in the most licked, polished metal frame and very narrow, almost sharpened side edges. The camera on the backside sticks out strongly, so the device is unstable on the table, swaying like a paperweight when you touch the screen. It is almost impossible to work with a lying smartphone. Xiaomi Mi 9 is equipped with an AMOLED display with a diagonal of 6.39 inches and a resolution of 2340 x 1080. Covered with 2.5D Corning Gorilla Glass, its 20-megapixel front camera perfectly conveys details, qualitatively cuts the main subject, blurring the background. The main camera consists of 3 modules. The main module here is a module with a 48-megapixel Sony IMX586 sensor. Next to it are a TV module for 2x optical zoom, 12MP sensor, 1.0 micrometers pixel size, f2.2 lens aperture, and a wide-angle module, 16MP sensor, f2.2 lens aperture. There is also support for the AI, which controls the modes. At night it glues several shots into one. In Auto HDR it expands the dynamic range, and in Portrait it cuts the object and blurs the background. The main module gives excellent pictures in 12 megapixels. Night shots are very good. In general, the level is quite flagship. Video can be shot in 4K at 60 FPS. The video is encoded in H.265 or H.264 to choose from. Slow motion shooting up to 960 FPS in Full HD resolution is also available. The quality of shooting in high modes is good. The work of the stabilizer, although software, not optical, is noticeable. The detail of the picture is high, but the colors, as always, are unnaturally acidic, completely unnatural as the software platform. Google Android of the latest 9th version is used with its own Xiaomi shell, MIUI 10. In the new shell, you can note the viewing of the latest running applications. Application windows are unusually arranged in a matrix form. There is a screen split mode. Several additional buttons appeared. Launching the utility, cleaning RAM, scanning for viruses, searching your own application store, as well as calling up a special section menu with a choice of games. There is an unlock function on the face. The on-screen fingerprint scanner is not lightning fast. Mi9 runs on a single-chip Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 system, manufactured using a 7nm process technology. The configuration of this SoC includes 8 Cryo 485 cores. And in total they provide up to 45% performance increase compared to the previous generation company's solution, Snapdragon 845. The main prime core, Cryo 485 Gold, operates here at a frequency of up to 2.84 GHz. The Adreno 640 GPU includes 50% more ALU processing units. Xiaomi Mi 9 has a built-in 3300 mAh battery. Obviously, a more economical latest platform, made according to the 7nm process technology, contributes. In real life, the smartphone confidently lives for a day, but you still cannot do without a daily night charge. The Honor 20 Pro is more rigorous and solid than most of its Honor family members, who now shine in the sun due to their bright gradient back panel. For the front camera, a module with a 32MP matrix, pixel size 0.8 micrometers, and a lens with an f2.0 aperture without autofocus is used. There is electronic stabilization. The phone received 3 camera modules. The first 48-megapixel module, the second module is super wide angle. It has a 16-megapixel sensor and an f2.2 aperture lens without autofocus. The wide-angle module is traditionally inferior to the main one in the quality of the picture. The third module, 8MP 4.4, uses a telephoto lens f2.4, The fourth module, 2-megapixel sensor f2.4 lens, acts as a separate camera for macro photography. The video camera shoots in maximum 4K at 30 FPS or 1080p at 60 FPS. You can choose the codec for compression, H.264 or H.265. There is a digital stabilization called intellectual eye stabilization. The quality of shooting in both senior modes in terms of detail is good, no complaints. Smooth handheld shooting on the go thanks to optical stabilization is also comfortable. The sound recording system writes sound quite high quality. As the software platform, Google Android 9th version is used with its own Honor shell, Magic UI 2.1. This is practically the same EMUI, only under a different name. Once it was relevant only for China, but now the manufacturer seems to have decided to pre-install Magic UI on all Honor smartphones. In general, she was distinguished only by the presence of a smart assistant Yo-Yo, Chinese replacement for Google Assistant. He is not here, but, bearing in mind the complicated relations with Google, it can be assumed that he will appear in the updated versions. As the hardware platform in the Honor 20 Pro, the flagship SoC Huawei Kirin 980, manufactured using the 7nm process technology, works. SoC configuration includes 3 CPU clusters, 2 Cortex-A76 cores with a frequency of 2.6 GHz, 2 of the same cores with a frequency of 1.9 GHz, and 4 Cortex-A55 with a frequency of 1.8 GHz. For graphics performance meets the GPU Mali G76 MP10. The Honor 20 Pro has an impressive 4000 mAh battery. In real life, the smartphone confidently lives for a day, but you still cannot do without a daily night charge.